up a seat at the bar to join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tanzan, Maggie, and me bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.
Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 13.28, Cassius the Coinless, where we are covering the novel Deadbeat. My name is Tanzan, and I am joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
A wop babaloo bop.
A wap wap boop.
Tutti frutti.
Chapter 37. Cassius reveals he's going to torture and kill Harry for his revenge, and he has come for the coin of Lasciel as well. Mouse and Butters intervene, but Cassius is able to get one final spell off.
Yay, we finally know who Liver Spots is.
Yes! I totally didn't know. I was like, what?
Tiny little blast from the past.
Do you remember if you figured it out beforehand or had an inkling?
I did not.
I don't think I did either, right? It was kind of bugging me, like, because normally that's the kind of thing I'll, like, kind of stop and think about or whatever, and
Harry / Jim Butcher makes it a point this whole book to keep saying, I know I recognize that guy, I know I recognize that guy, I know I recognize that guy, and I still was like, I don't know, we never meet any old people. They're all dead.
Same thing. It did not.
There was, for me, there was no moment of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, it wasn't a like, oh, I misread like some of these clues. No, I don't think there were
the
enough.
descriptors of Cassius the first time we met him. It's about the monster, not the man.
Well,
so
and
that's really not.
That's just it. There's not. And as we learn in a few moments here, he has changed quite a bit. And see, I think that's part of why I didn't clue in, like my brain wasn't going there the first time around, because he mentions, he's like, what happened? You were like 40 the last time I saw you. And he's all like, oh yeah, well, my demon kept time at bay, and now like Mother Nature's, taking it and with interest or whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute though, didn't the other guy? And I went back, and so when they killed Lasciel or whatever in the alley, Shiro and Michael and them, that body did like a Raiders of the Lost Ark, like wither instantly, turned to dust, blew away in the wind.
Oh, Cassius with interest. You should have been dead then.
He shouldn't have, because it even said, because then I was like, well, maybe he didn't have it like as long, like maybe the other guy, but he said the other guy was like Gold Rush days. So that's like within our century and stuff like that, right? And he says Cassius probably had his for like 15 or 16 centuries. I'm like, that's like 1,500 years. Over 1,000 years, and it's taken him a couple of years, and he looks like a 60 or 70-year-old man.
That doesn't seem like interest. That just seems like really fair, actually.
It's just right. Like, I mean, okay, yeah,
an averagely hard life.
You're aging faster than we aged in 2 years, but comparatively, I'm like, this is one of those few times where I feel like, Butcher, I think we've got a little incontinuity going on here. Because, yeah, the other guy, once he was well past his date of expiry, basically instantly, right, caught up to where he should have been at that point. So I'm like,
I'm sure there's some technicality about, Ursula was killed while still transformed and had a
Little
release,
Mermaid,
but
yes,
Cassius
that's when Ursula was killed.
Yeah, whatever the fuck.
But yeah. I mean, like, whatever, right? Can't all be perfect all the time. But I almost feel like, I'm like, well, see, we had, like, false clues.
Yeah.
Before,
It's not my fault, okay?
Harry and Deadpool, man, fucking unreliable narrators. They just, but yeah. So I was like, well, if I'd known that, then maybe I would have put it together. But the other guy, like, died instantly. So, like, I wasn't expecting any of those fuckwads to come back again.
Do you ever think Butcher just listens into some of these episodes and is like, oh, fuck.
Right. Damn it. Somebody pointed that out somewhere. Yeah.
So immediately following this, we get this explanation that Cassius wants Harry's coin so that he can take up another fallen and rejoin Nicodemus, who casted him out for being a loser bitch-ass punk who got beat by Dresden.
Rude.
Honestly fair.
Like, what? Jeez, Nick.
You don't want bitch-ass supervillains at your side. If you can get, the shit
then they're
beat
just
out of you by
villains.
some random guy. The thing that I am wondering about, though, is that Cassius mentions here, don't even bother, these manacles have been
Made
by what?
image and
How does he
used.
still have access to them if he was cast out? Does just everyone have their own backpack full of supplies, or does he just he knows a couple
when
of guys in Chicago because of Nick?
You get dismissed from a job and you just take all of the office supplies.
Right.
But I'm wondering, where he still let you use some shit, and you just automatically just already had a stack
I
of
was
shit.
gonna say I could.
They're just mass produced on the black market now.
Well, kind of all of those things I could see, right? So, I mean, on the one hand, yeah, he probably had his own little lair, home, whatever, hideout somewhere that, yeah, he could have just, like you say, I mean, it's not like Nicodemus is gonna, like you say, at an old job, escort him off the property and be like, I'm gonna come to your house and take everything that, right? So he could have, yes, just had shit lying around places that...
Hand in your coin and your thorn manacles. And your badge.
I mean,
and your
right,
disguise.
yeah, it
and your
basically
disguise.
just ends right there, right? He's just like, whatever, I'm done with you. But I
Yeah.
mean, it could also be that exactly if good old Nick has maybe not mass produced, but exactly either he's got. I mean, again, why would he not give them out to other people or sell them to other? You know what I mean?
Get big. Here, you get
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Get
yeah.
one.
His annual gala event. These are swag bags. You get some wizard manacles and some, But yeah, it could really be either. Or again, he just trying to be all sneaky and manipulative and villainy. Maybe he, snuck a pair somewhere.
And then there's the saddest moment too, where Harry kind of almost gives in. He's like, well, you know what? The knights always show up. So if I'm just patient.
Well, not so much give in, but yeah.
Yeah, if you're just patient and wait for them.
The
and
opposite
have
of
faith
giving.
that they'll be
Exactly,
there.
right? And it is kind of a moment, right, where he's like, so, for a moment, they're the one thing I've never had much of, and now I'm pinning all my hopes to it. I'm like, I just gotta have faith.
Right.
Right. And I do remember sort of, again, that initial reading it, right, where you're like, yeah, right. They do always. I bet you they will. We haven't seen Michael all book. Yeah. So, because we know, I'm like, the book doesn't end here, so somebody's got to come riding to his rescue.
Well, it makes sense if the threat was more than just to Harry. If it was
Right. Well,
then the Knights would be like, yeah, we're here to stop, the city of
Mass
Chicago being
murder
fucked
of-
over, but it's just you, buddy. You got this.
Well, I got two thoughts here. A, I think Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry thought that he'd seen his dad come and save him with the Patronus.
Right.
And he's sitting there and he's like, don't worry, I saw my dad. I know he's going to come there. And then, fast forward and he's laying there and he's like, I know my dad shows up. I've seen this before. And then he realizes, wait a second, the time traveling, I'm the one who goes and saves myself, right? And it's a very sad moment because you're like, holy shit, Harry's dad's going to be here. He's going to come and save him.
Right.
And then you
you're
kind of
oh.
realize at the same time as Harry, or in this case, Harry. You're like, oh my God, this is so sad. Similarly, though, it's also that kind of sinking, dreading feeling of being like, I'm sorry, Harry, but the whole point is that he's not fallen anymore, so Michael will not show up. God works in mysterious ways, but you're not dealing with the fallen right now.
Sometimes
You are
they're not so
dealing with
mysterious.
us. In the same
A
reason,
really bitter dude.
in the same reason that Sonya and Michael were not able to act against Cassius when he gave up the coin.
Yes. They're not going to be able
He's
to
still
come, right?
without coin now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, it's one of those where you're like, exactly, he's gonna have to dig deep and find a way to save himself again, like he always does. But yeah, again, it's just that well put. How Butcher's just able to do that, just be like, hey, you're like, oh yeah, right, and easily make you forget all the other reasons that you.
I do also, real quick though, in this moment when he's like, okay, in order to wait for Michael, I'm gonna get him to talk about himself because
right,
people like to
drag
do
it
that. That'll
out,
drag it out.
yeah.
But that tends to work through flattery. That doesn't work through insulting people. Usually that shuts people down and makes them not want to talk.
I mean, depends on your audience. Some people are motivated more by spite, right?
He just immediately hey bro, you look like shit.
Yeah, some are just
Yeah,
as mouthy.
yeah, it's your fault, yeah.
All right, verbal sparring it is.
Right. Yeah. Oh, do I look like shit? It's because it's your fault, Athel.
No.
Want to why it's your fault? But yeah, so it turns out Cassius has some issues here. He's not happy with how things were left.
I mean, getting beaten half to death with a baseball bat will do that to a guy.
Shattering all your arms and joints and knees, wrists, ankles, hands. It's apparently.
It would be funny if Cassius was trying to shove a nickel down his throat right now and be like, yeah, here's your quarter, bitch. And
Make this phone call. But yeah, and it gets a little nasty. I mean, even just, again, right, even that anticipation, that suspense of laying out the tools. I've got my bat, I've got my nice little knives, I've got my little saw, Kobe, like, right? And you just, like, again, right, just let the imagination just fill in the blanks for you, You're
psychological torture there.
Psychological torture. It's just like, oh my gosh. It's like, I don't want to know, I don't want to know, I don't want to know. And, yeah. And it gets far enough, right? Because again, it never happens that. Like, Harry's got to go on. Can't be injured that badly. He's got shit to do, right? Yet Pitcher can only beat him up so far. And he's got to save himself, or someone will come, right? And he takes all, like, even just like the beating with the chain thing. And I like how he makes like a nice little point to mention that, his jacket is all fallen open, so he's got no protection from his duster there. It's like, that'll teach you. Quit having it all flap around all manly and super cape hero-y. Button that shit up, Harry. Cassius might not have thought to bother, like, undoing it if it wasn't all,
But it's too warm in there. He just couldn't.
Yeah. Fashion will kill you every time, right?
Is it Cassius or Cassius?
I tend to think of it as Cassius. I don't know if there's a particular...
Okay.
I never know pronunciation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't listen to the audiobooks, so I don't know. And not to say that those are canon, but...
Yeah. It's I don't know, it's kind of I always think of, like, Cassius Clay, for one, and then also it just seems more
seems like a Roman name to me, Cassius.
Yeah, I guess, but for me, sometimes, I don't know, somehow that translates to more of a Cassius to me sometimes. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that it's...
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, like, there's no... In case we use the Coinless is the...
Yes.
Nobody's going to be like, you're saying it wrong.
No
one knows.
Don't know that there's... Yeah, I don't have a definitive answer for you on that one, so we'll go with dealer's choice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So Harry tells Cassius that he like bound Lasciel and that he buried the coin, in which he's like, bullshit,
He's like, dude, I don't have it.
Bullshit.
Right? He tries for that, like, hey, dude, wait, before you go all nuts trying to get it out of me, I don't have it. Right? And yeah, somehow he just doesn't believe him. And it's gross how he talks about, right? He's like, oh, I know somebody that, like, kept it in here and kept it in there. And one guy just, like, swallowed it and it's like, gross. Like, I mean, you don't mention it. And regardless, it's disgusting. But I'm like, I do hope you did at least, like, wash it off every time before. I hope you didn't just, like, immediately.
We don't have to discuss it.
Right? It's just, bleh. But yeah, so he's like, yeah, whatever, I'll figure it out. He's like, and I don't know. Is it just the general, because, what's their nuts? Not Amy and Rory, Georgia and Billy are kind of like, we get it, like, there's kind of like a thing about you, right? They don't know what it is, but they kind of get, right? So again, Cassius not having any sort of, is it because he was so intimately connected to those beings for so long that he can sense something about Harry? Is it more just an assumption that he's,
Yeah, I think after 15 or 16 centuries and you've never seen anyone not take up the coin, you're going to be like, bullshit.
Well, no, but not just so much that the assumption that he would, that, but I mean that, like, I feel like he, like, right, senses it or doesn't sense it on him, right? Because when he tries to get it off him at the car and he's like, what, right? It just seems more something, I'm like, is there actually sort of a connection where he's sensing this supernatural essence, or is he just...
I just take it as a crazy old man.
He's a crazy old man that there's no way
he's just like, where is it? In the pocket? In the wallet? Did you swallow it?
There is quite a bit of an obsession driving him.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
I think he's got nothing supernatural about him, honestly. I mean, maybe he's got a little bit of, like, wizardry in him.
Well, he obviously
clearly,
still does have a little bit because, he's still doing
But I don't mean to say that, like, he's anything supernatural, though, outside of that. He's
that's true.
not
sort of
sensing.
Thinking about the fact that he has kept some of his wizardly gifts. So, maybe that's giving him a little bit of vibe or something that there's... Because, I'm like, obviously most people don't seem to instantly recognize Harry's got something, but some of them also kind of seem to be partially aware that there's been a change, so... But
so the torture continues. Harry decides he's going to start screaming his head off because it feels good, honestly, when you're in pain.
On the one hand, why the fuck not? Mm-hmm. On the other hand, lo and behold, sneaky Harry. It muffles. What?
Hello, Mouse.
Mouse, you beautiful mutt.
Mm-hmm. And Butters, who didn't run.
And Butters, who didn't run away. Like, yeah.
You're not on your own, Harry.
You're not on your own.
All that pep talk worked. Yeah, Cassius uses his magic to conjure up Cobra to his defense, and Mouse wrestles with it.
Rude. You got your big ass dog coming. You're like, yeah, this is it. And then fuck physics and momentum, and Mouse just goes sliding on by. Like, Jesus, motherfucker. Yeah, and then fucking Snake Boy. You can't, poor Mouse. Not nice.
It's okay. Mouse has it covered.
Mouse does have it covered, as it turns out. Damn.
And Butters does too, because honestly, Butters still throws himself into the fray. It's like really like, fuck yeah, Butters. Fuck
right?
Yeah, just does a flying leap.
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, and you can just picture this out of, I don't know, TV cartoons, whatever, right? Just because Butters is not a tall man. He's not like super short, but he's like, I think Harry says he's something like 5'6", 5'7", right? So he's not a super tall guy, and he's been fucking scared out of his mind, and rightly so, this entire time. And you can just picture that little, like...
Have you ever had a kid launch themselves on you and
Why,
like
yes.
hold on? Yeah,
Yes.
That's debilitating. Now imagine him,
Yeah.
albeit a small dude,
Just last week, actually, and the week before that, and the week before that. Stop
had a small
fucking
dude latch
climbing.
onto you.
Yes, I had a small child launch themselves at me and glom on. That hurts my back. I'm just getting old now. Can you please not? No, let go. Yeah.
You know those stories about...
I'm dead.
You know those stories about people who have like
Spider monkeys?
dogs that are deathly afraid of the vacuum cleaner?
Yes.
And then they have a baby, and then they're like trying to vacuum their home, and the dog is terrified, but like standing on shaking legs in front of the baby's cradle, trying to protect them for like things like that, right?
Right.
Because that's exactly what I imagine when Cassius does get the knife back, and he goes to lunge again, and Butters throws himself between Harry and Cassius, and it's like, you like just moment after moment after moment of this man being so terrified, and finally when it matters, he's there.
He's there. Yeah, he's like, shit, Harry can't do anything to save me this time. I got to at least.
Yep.
And that's the thing, because Harry is still quiet. I mean, not only he can't pull the magic because of the manacles, but
Harry describes it as making him like weaker than a newborn kitten, which is crazy to me because I think the manacles would maybe take away the powers, but you should still then just be whatever sort of regular human strength you're at. But this says it's like weakens you even beyond that.
Right, I didn't even think about those two.
maybe. I don't know. I can't remember now if I took it as like magically weaker than
It's like a wet blanket, like just like.
But either way, whether it's the manacles or not, he's just literally had the shit beat out of him too.
Well, that
he
yeah.
has taken a nasty beat.
Was
so-
recently tortured. And by recent, we mean seconds.
Yeah, and like I say, right, I mean, yeah, having, like, being beat on with that, like you say, and the amount of bruising and, like, deep bruising and trauma that would have caused, plus then the slicing of his stomach after that. Yeah, that's not going to make for a real good, like, here, let me just pull my abdominal muscles and sit up kind of a thing, right? So, yeah, exactly, right. Like, he really is incapacitated both ways, that it's very, like, even though it's like, okay, well, I can't use magic, but I can, you know, at least get up and run away and get myself out. And he's like, you can't even do that. So yeah, Butters has to, like, Harry's like, I can't roll away, crawl away, move away. It's like, fuck, it's just one of those big ass hero moves, right?
Thomas, where the fuck are you?
There, right? Yeah, Thomas, where the
That's
fuck
my
are
man.
you?
This is fucking Butters.
Right? Yeah, it's just, ugh. And then,
So Mouse gets the final blow, which is something. Good job, Mouse. Good boy, Mouse.
but yeah, even when he, like, it's an interesting, the battle between him and this snake. Because, I mean, Mouse is young, right? Mouse is just, like, a year-old puppy. But, like, it's so funny because Harry keeps describing him as being all, like, gangly and whatever at this point. I'm like, a fucking cobra's gonna move faster than that fucking dog. Like, no doubt. Those things are...
It's a temple dog.
It's a temple dog, and yeah, it gets that. And I mean, even just that, just the viciousness of him, like, clamping on to the back of the snake and whipping, right? I'm like, yeah, you basically just, like, snap the spine or whatever this, and it just, like, melts again into, like, an ectoplasmic goop, right? You're just like, ew, vicious.
And then does the same thing, too.
And then does the
Cassius.
same thing, too. Yeah. And you know, like, it's funny because part of his right before they burst in, you know, and the whole torture starts, right? Harry does a call back to that. He's like, do you remember what I said to you the last time I saw you? You know, if I ever saw you again, I was going to kill you. And he's all like, what are you going to do about it now? You're at my mercy, right? And then just that moment, I love almost just pauses. And Harry looks at him and goes, Told you so. What did I say? What did I say? What were we talking about? Yeah, so I gave you a chance. Wait. And again, typical, right? Fucking bad guys. It's all fine when you're the one doing it, and as soon as the tables are turned, it's, wait, don't kill me.
Right?
I'm like, assholes. But yeah, it manages to flash the death curse. Oh, dial.
First one we've actually seen.
That's true. We've heard mention of it a few times. Harry's threatened to expel it a few times, but luckily has always been saved in the nick of time. But yeah, mouths. Kill him. I'm like, there's not even any euphemism there. Not even like, do it, or go ahead, mouse, or right. He's straight up. He's like, mouse, kill him.
I told you.
Told you.
Told you if I ever saw you again.
You had fair warning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you came to me.
Picked the wrong, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Last thing I heard was the snapping of bone. And the squeaking of leather.
Thank you to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us to do what we do. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at www.patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 38. Harry debates with his subconscious about getting help from Lasciel. He finally relents and accepts her help and learns about the Darkhallow. Harry asks Butter to help him with his plan to disrupt the event. So Harry finds himself with Lasciel and his alter ego again. Not quite in a dream state, but in some sort of weird mental
blacked out
place.
From pain and having a death curl hurled at you kind of a thing. Semi-conscious.
The in-betweens.
Right.
Not a great meeting place.
I mean, Harry's definitely had worse meeting places. At least there's chairs.
It was a hot tub last time.
That's true. I didn't say he hadn't had better, but I said he'd had. At least he's not being like held, manacled, half naked under a stream of freezing glacial water. You know, that one was not fun. He's dry and there's a chair.
So picky.
I know, right? He's had it always. But yeah, and I like how he's got Lasciel in like a prison jumpsuit. Like, let's just be okay, right? I locked you up, bitch.
I just love the literal manifestation of Harry's, like, him wrestling with his own choices, like how he just embodies every single aspect of this with symbolism and like creates this world.
It is such a fun way to do it because we do all have those back and forth arguing with ourselves.
This is way more interesting.
And it is. It's just so much more fun to have like that sort of separate. Yeah, I mean, like he said, you know, like his subconscious is always pointing out to me, he's like, why are you fighting with me? Like, you know, we're the same, you know? But I was like, but it is, right? It's like having that separate argument, you know what I mean?
Well, and it's just, it's interesting. It shows a deeper intelligence in a way for Harry, but it's also really unsettling.
I don't know. I think this is exactly what people are afraid of about Harry, is that they don't know which Harry they're going to get. Is it going to be this primal, darker version of him, or is it just, I'm just a guy who likes to make jokes?
Well, and that's the thing, and I think sort of by giving us the visual of it, right, is it gives you that sort of multiple personality kind of, right? Are these like different are these separate? Does Harry have a whole separate, I can go this, or is
this dissociation?
Or is this all just...
Or is it just creative?
The creative and the part and parcel of yourself, and I don't know, you know, maybe it's a reflection of Harry's, right? Maybe that comes like this because Harry's not so sure sometimes, you know, like part of what's keeping him together and keeping him on this path is I could let myself go, but I don't want to, so that would just be like this other evil part of me coming out and taking over, as opposed to actually like him making the choice to be or whatever, right?
Well, the whole
like
point of this conversation is almost seemingly that Harry doesn't have that choice, that he himself is going behind he himself's back. And that's where it's hard to tell because, well, you can't go behind your own back, so you must have wanted this, but at the same time you're arguing with yourself about like, well, I fucking told her no, and he's like, yeah, but I told her yes, and it's like, Who's the real Harry?
Yeah, well, exactly right. But of course, the whole point is that, it's like, but you are all. And it's, again, most of us aren't dealing with these type of moral quandaries on these levels. But
I have a question. We have seen alter ego Harry before.
yeah.
Did alter ego Harry make an appearance before or after he initially touched the coin?
After.
But never before.
Never before.
Okay.
That's something that I consider too. And I wondered, I brought up earlier as well, why do you think Sheila lived at Cabrini Green? And we went back and forth about it's a convenient place, Butcher really likes that place. But I think it's because it was a really recent place. That's where Lasciel has most recently seen Harry. She was along for that adventure. She had to pick somewhere in the city that she had seen that she could reasonably throw an apartment into. And she's like, well, Harry doesn't go anywhere that I can build a brand new apartment that no one else is going to see. It's one of the only real estate options she had. And I think partially
the fact that, with it being under construction and everything like that, right, is it made a good excuse to not have any other neighbors or people around to call out the illusion. Not just illusion, but
that's why I think, Cabrini Green was chosen too, is because it had to be specifically from Harry's past that he would be, aware of enough that she could, use those blueprints to build around. And I almost feel it's the same way with this subconscious in his mind is like, whatever's there can't be made of nothing. It still has to be all Harry, right? Lash can't interact with any thought that Harry's never going to have because it's just not in there.
Yeah.
But this alter ego version of himself is, I don't know, manifesting because of her as well. Like, it's just this sort of there's no need for Harry to have had a secondary thought process happening until there was a secondary thought process in his mind. So then he had to, I don't know, it's like this weird, chicken and egg and bullshit. But
yeah.
Do you think that maybe his alter ego is just her projection, of a different way of her trying to convince him to go her way? Look, even you agree with me.
That would be interesting. I don't think it's like that, but I think that'd be a really good way to manipulate him if she was like, all right, you won't talk to the female version of me. How about the male version that looks like you?
Yeah, that is.
But it almost seems like if they could do that, why would they even bother? Unless, sex usually is just good enough. They don't need to make, but I do think is Harry. I just think it's honestly not
He does have it in him, so it's
but not this Harry here calls himself. He's like, I'm the one more concerned with food, survival, mating. I think you're more capable of being tempted. Whatever you want, power, so you'll do whatever deal you can to do that.
Yeah, there's no higher self to
there's exactly the not empathy, but responsibility. There's no one. You're not beholden to anyone. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think
it's the sociopath version of him.
That's what he's afraid of, right? That's why he questions it. But I was going to say, maybe he made more of this sort of separate manifestation, as you say, because, like you say, he had with Lasciel there. Now she is a separate entity in there. It is an addition of
It's almost
something.
like a garden. It's still Harry, but she nurtured it and grew another Harry while she was in there.
Well, I don't even see it so much like that because, like you say, I take it as more face value as Harry says that, this is like his id or whatever, right? This is your base. We do all have that subconscious and we do all have that base, right? That's the whole point is that, being human beings and having morality and consciousness and logic is exactly, I might want Tanzin's fancy cool mic, but, the higher part of my brain says, no, you can't just strangle her in her sleep and take it.
Thank you.
That would be wrong, right? Right? And that's why. But we do have that base of us that is just I could just do it. I could just take it. And I can ignore all those other, right? So, I mean, there is that part. But I think, like you say, sort of separate. And I don't know maybe if it is him bolstering more, like you say, right now that he's got a sort of, not quite physical, but, this other alien entity in his mind, his brain, his consciousness, whatever. Now he's, maybe has to feel more like he's got to take more pieces on his side, right? It's still him. It's nothing maybe different or added, but he's now it's 2 against 1 kind of a, Or again, just the fact that he's got this other thing whispering now his consciousness is being okay, I have to be a little bit more overt. I can't just be that whisper in the back of your mind because you're trying to shut all that down but I'm no, I have to make more of a point that you need to listen to some of your baser instincts.
It almost seems like cheating, though. You're just all right, me, myself, and I got 3 votes. Let's go.
Yeah, well, yeah. Have you met Harry? He will weasel and cheat. Yeah, absolutely. That's what.
What do you do when you really want the cookie?
Right? I mean, before you know it, we'll have 17 Harrys all running around and it'll be like laid back surfer dude Harry, and they'll be like,
All the variants.
right, like every possible. He'll just bring out another one, and
Deadpool movie, but make it Harry.
right, Kung Fu Ninja Harry, and like, come on, let's just go the whole 9 yards. We'll have Cat Harry, and
We already have Cat Harry.
be like carrier pigeon Harry.
Yes! That's the ultimate form. The Harry that wins in every timeline.
Right. Just feel like every time.
I know that could make or break it. Jim Butcher, just put them in the books.
Right? You got 3 more to go.
Who designs a world without phones and doesn't automatically add carrier pigeons? It's
Right?
ridiculous.
Right?
Yeah, guys, that's the reason I got rid of the phones.
No! No. We're going to find a workaround for that. We're going to fix this.
So, this whole conversation that they end up getting to, regardless of whether or not Harry's subconscious is Harry or not.
Oh, now it makes you wonder, is it Harry or is it Lasciel?
The more I think about it, the more I really want it to be Lasciel just really manipulating the fuck out of him.
Right? Because like...
Fuck this guy. Ignore me for months.
Well, and it could be because you were commenting on that real quick and being like, oh, if it's Lasciel, then why does she need to bother with like her form of it? But I'm like, but that just makes it all that much more compelling because she's like, oh, hey, here I am, I'm over here. Well, look, that's you. You know what I mean? Like,
It'd be suspicious if you showed up right after me, but,
yeah.
playing the long game, that's what I do.
Exactly. No. This is a piece on your side. You made this. But yeah, again, a fantastic conversation as you watch Harry lay it all out and reason his points, argue his points with himself. And again, it's funny how he makes his points and does shoot them down, but then after a while, his self still points out and be like, Kate, this is still you. Like, you're the one that's still thinking this. That's why, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't an outside idea. You are like, fucking shut up, you. But I don't know. I like these conversations and I like how they play out and I like seeing.
Assuming that, for the moment, Harry and Harry are both Harry and not Lash. I do like the moment where they tell her to shut up, and they're like, "Fuck you! But we have to solve this on our own, okay? We just want you for information,
if I could
nothing
just
else."
shut up.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love the function of it too, because done for the reader, like just looking at it as a writing mechanical sense, like for those readers that didn't pick up on certain details, this is the very much like
Such a good way to lay it out. Yeah.
a really interesting way instead of like feeding direct information. It's
Right, well, exactly. Instead of Harry basically being like, so in case you missed it, right? It lets it sort of organically, right? Let me have this conversation without telling you that I'm telling you, and
I have the feeling that it's like really started with this era of the books, this one and the next few kind of through changes, where this much more subtlety level is happening now. Like Jim Butcher's writing is just elevated to that level where it's not as spelt out as often, and it's just, and that doesn't necessarily have to just come with his writing, but just being so deep into these novels and knowing the characterization of everyone too, and knowing their motivations and their past.
I was going to say like a combination of, and in the beginning, Harry was just like, oh, I'm just doing this shit now. Exactly,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
And being able to
as
pick up and be
everything
like,
has evolved, so has the levels of,
Yeah, it's good. But obviously, pointed out again, still, after all this fighting, arguing, comparing, debating, you read the book for a
Moralizing.
reason, bro.
Yeah.
Are we doing this or are we not doing this? And I kind of get why, because the whole point of Harry not allowing any temptation at all means you don't allow any temptation at all, means you don't read that book no matter what, so that it is not an option. So I get the whole point of like, you read it, bro, so stop fucking playing around. Obviously, we're going to do this. But I think it's also important to say Harry still could have resisted in this moment. This could have been like a book 20 thing where he's like, all right, I read that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I need it today, which, who knows, maybe it'll come up again. But as far as it goes for this book, he immediately is like, okay, you're right, I did want to use it right away. Whereas I feel like he could have still, he might have died, but I think, there was a route where Harry could have still resisted in this moment and been like, no. I'll use that later in the future when people have read it.
So I don't think, just if I'm taking it correctly the way you just said it, I don't know that I took it that he wants to use this or have this power. I'm looking at it more that he is simply using it as a way of, because he says, right, he's like, well, I only did that in case Gervain didn't give me much. If Gervain had let something slip about, how it's going or how to stop it without, I mean, like I say, I don't need to understand how a combustion engine works, but if you're like, hey, don't jam a wrench into that piece right there, then I'm like, okay, I don't need to know how the rest of it works or what it's doing, but I know if I jam a wrench right here, I'm going to fuck this engine up, right? Harry's just kind of looking for one of those, not necessarily that he's like, well, I want to know how the ritual works in case I ever want to do the ritual. He's like, but if Gravane didn't tell me something about how it was working for me to figure it out,
I don't think your metaphor works very well. It totally lost me. Like, the whole point is that if you're going to read this book, it's so that the information is in your brain. Whether or not it's your brain or the demon inside of your brain's brain, but you've got the information in your brain.
Yeah, but
the whole reason for that is to use it, okay? And the whole reason, he's all like, well, like maybe I could have found another option. And the guy's like, you did it 5 minutes ago and you're out of options.
Right. At what point is it no longer like a desperation sort of backup versus intent to just do it anyway?
Well, I'm not even saying that it like he's still trying to play coy and be like, maybe not this, maybe. I just mean like, just what are you arguing against it now? Still further proof because
against himself there. I'm just saying you make it sound like you think he read the book because he might be the demigod. He's going to be like, I'm going to perform it. I'm going to suck in all the power. I'm going to.
No.
Okay, that's how it made you like to use it. And I'm like, but he doesn't want to use it. He just needs to know that information so he can figure out how to stop it.
Well, okay, yes.
So he needed to know how the whole thing worked so he could
That is what I mean.
He does need to. Okay.
But the whole point, though, is that he wants Lash to tell him that information. And that means accepting Lasciel, not accepting the Kemmler. I'm not trying to say he read it to accept Kemmler, right? God status. I mean, he read it to accept Lasciel, godlike status.
Yes, if he wanted
that if you asked Lasciel for help,
he knew he would have to go through her, and taken one more step.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that at that point, it should have been like, all right, this is my decision, not still then, oh, well, maybe not. I think he could have put it off for a couple more years still and, like,
But I do, and I don't know. Maybe this is more of like a personality. Maybe you don't think or whatever the same way. But I'm like, I feel like I've had moments, I mean, definitely not on this scale or anything this serious, right? But where you are sort of trying to convince yourself right down to the last, like, do I go buy that pack of cigarettes or whatever, you know what I mean? And be like, I really shouldn't, like, I quit, but at the same time, I'm like, I just keep borrowing them every time we go out, so really wouldn't it just make sense to go buy my own and stop, like, bumming off my friends and, you know what I mean? And you go through this very bit, right? You know you really don't. Part of you is like, I really don't want to because I know if I do, and they're sitting right there, it's not going to be just one, I'm going to end up, right? And I feel like sometimes, even though you know, but you are still trying to find every last little part of it and see if you're going to talk yourself into it or out of it. And I feel like that's like,
I get it. We've all met that like rando in a bar who's been carrying the same pack of smokes in their bag for 20 years because they quit 20 years ago and they still haven't opened it. They're so proud of themselves. But
whatever,
still
right? I think
I get that.
Harry just, it's like really trying to, like, even though he knows that's why he did it and that he's probably,
I know, but these metaphors are not they're not a good comparison. This is fucking literal apocalyptic shit. Not whether or not you go and get a smoke.
Finally comes down to, right? Then that's the thing, because he's like, fine, don't do it and everyone will die. And then Harry goes, oh wait, what?
That's exactly it though, is this speech to convince you, is that it's not just all the people who have ever come to you, but ever will. If you die tonight and you don't do this, think of everyone you could possibly help in the future. That's a crazy manipulation there.
Yes.
And that is the one part of the conversation that I feel is more Lash than himself.
Yeah, it seems strange coming from the one that just finished saying that it's his baser instincts, and he's talking about repercussions,
it's like
which he shouldn't have a concept of.
It's like they traded sides about whether or not they're in this for survival of themselves or for saving, like, the whole world.
Right.
And it seems very suddenly this manipulation coming from the Fallen of, like...
That is a very good point. I hadn't looked at it from that, but... I think at the same, so I get what you're saying, that you're right. It's sort of a higher concept to the base, but at the same time, it equates to the same thing because he wants to live. So it is that this is what I got to do to survive. If you won't do it for yourself, okay, what about all those other people, right? Because that's what basically says. You're basically just committing suicide then. And I don't want to do that. And this is right. So I feel it works both ways. I think you make it very good. It could very well be a Lash maneuver. It could be like this, but at the same time, I'm like, your baser self is still going to go to that higher consciousness. And you have to convince if that's, in order to...
That just, to me, it just seems just different enough that it's like just out of bounds enough from...
Yeah, well, yeah, there it makes...
regular stances had been a moment before.
Hop onto our Discord and share your thoughts. Where do you guys fall?
Well, and one more way to look at this, too, is like just how much of Harry is actually really, truly influenced by Lasciel at this point, because his baser instincts just know.
That therein is right. There's this never-ending loop. The Mobius strip, whatever, right, is chicken or the egg, right? Which is coming first? Which is which? Harry doing this fight to be like, am I talking to myself? Am I talking to the demon? What's really? And maybe that's why it's more of this protracted, drawn out. Right, is that because he's not trusting his own instinct anymore. So, right, he's like, what are my motivations? Am I doing this because I think this is what to do? Or am I doing this because I'm being influenced and led to believe that this is the right? This is why he's like, I don't know, beating it to death kind of a thing, is probably, again, that second guessing, him really trying to, you know, and I mean, again, part of Harry is like, I don't want to do this shit. I don't like, exactly, right? Like, for good or bad, not that Harry is suicidal, but, you know, I mean, I think, yeah, we all have that give up point, that whatever, right? You know, and he's like, I could just, if I can't do it, I can't do it. It's beyond me. It's not my fault. It's kind of a certain, right? That it would give him a certain, I'd be like, I tried, I you know, but yeah, exactly. It's like, do you cross the line to not give up and go, or yeah, right?
Well, and that's why it's so frustrating too that Harry's subconscious keeps telling him, like, of course you'll be able to control it. Of course, it's your mind, it's your will. Of course, why would you let her take over? That's your decision. Like, yeah, you'll have to work hard. But it seems so flippant of him to just be like, that's for tomorrow to figure out. When we've had, 2 books so far being like, if I give in to this, like, that could be the end of me. We've seen what happened to Cassius, who doesn't even have a coin anymore and is still crazy going after that power again.
And it's not even just the 2 books, because that's the point Harry makes. He's like, when I went through all that shit with Justin, I'm like, I'm not, right? That's why he's like, I am so conscious of this. And again, it is flippant, but again, I'm like, I feel like that is that nature of God. I mean, again, I can...
But this is a further point from the Wardens, though, and why they execute children as soon as they turn dark, because it's like, once you have a taste of that power, there's no coming back from it. We don't give you a second chance
from that. It is scary, and it is. It's like that. It's like, alcoholism or whatever, this or that or whatever, right? Where they're like, once you get over that hump or whatever, exactly, it's like, yeah, even if it's been like 20 years since you've had a drink or a smoke or whatever, if you allow yourself to have that one sip, are you then going to be able to say, okay, yeah, it's good. I toasted my daughter's engagement. Congratulations. Now I can, right? Or is that going to be like, now you want another one, now you want, and you do know, right? Like, you know where that led before and where you got to that. And you're like, obviously I made a choice that it wasn't for me. I needed to not, right? But there is still that part of your brain going, it's just a sip. How bad can it be? It's your daughter's engagement. Like, go ahead. You'll look like an ass if you don't. Obviously, you've got this under control. Obviously, you can handle this, right? That's what our brains do. That's what our temptation part of us, right, does be sort of flippant and be like, you got this. You can control this. You're fine. You can have one more smoke. You can have one more hit. You can have one more fix. You can have one more donut, So you're not wrong. But I also feel that, to me, it's believable. And I don't know, maybe, right? Maybe your brain...
No, I'm not saying it's not believable. I just think that Harry, it's just... I don't know. I don't want to say it feels cheap, but it just seems like the reasoning that they're both using right now are not pairing up equally.
And that's fair. I mean, again, it is subjective interpretation, opinion, right? That's how you feel that. I'm like, I don't ever remember feeling sort of right. To me, I was like, yeah, it felt natural enough. It felt believable enough. It felt, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that there's not really necessarily a right or wrong or whatever, right? I'm like, I think there is a lot of subjectivity to this, and your own relatability or whatever is going to color, the perceptions of whatever. But more to say, I find it interesting. More just devil's advocate, not arguing that you're wrong per se, just...
So Harry finally asks Lasciel if she can show him the pages, and she tells him she would be pleased to assist in any way.
Yeah.
There's this one quote here, and I just got to ask this, whether or not we'll keep this in or not, because this is one of my memory points. But it's one of the coldest, most evil souls I have ever encountered once told me that the reason I fought so hard to do what seemed right was that I was terrified to look within me and see the desire to cease the fight and do as I would, free of conscience or remorse. And now I could see that he had been right. you guys remember who that is?
Nicodemus.
Okay. I couldn't recall. I was like,
Yes, yeah.
Oh, wait, okay, I remember this, but not.
Yeah, part of his whole temptation spiel and trying to was, he's like, you want to, just do it. Which is part of what that last bit of conversation was, where Justin and I kind of went off, and that was part of, I think, the points we were making there was exactly right, as Harry does have a certain amount of temptation towards that, a certain amount of, they all hate me anyways and think I'm bad, I might as well just be bad.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, not everyone is gonna be exposed to those power grabs. Mm-hmm. But wizards, and especially Harry, are constantly being exposed to it all the time. And so the wizards are like, you gotta say no every time, guys. Right. In our line of work, you're gonna come across demons and fairies and
gateway
scrolls
magic
and gateways, and there's gonna always be time to make a deal. And you've got to be like capable of standing up and saying, no, I don't want to deal with you. And Harry's kind of constantly being like, no. Well,
that's the thing he says. It's very easy for him to say, I don't want to do that. And then they go, oh, but what about this? And
but that's the thing, is that we know when he made all those deals in the past. We've seen him make, the book started off with him in debt to Leah, right?
Right. But I think that's exactly that. I mean, path of least resistance and stuff like that, right? Like, more or less, Harry's a good guy and wants to do the right thing, but it is really freaking hard, And I mean, think of pacifists and whatever and blah, 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 you know what I mean? I'm like, it's hard to have somebody beating the crap out of you and be like, I'm not going to hit you back kind of a thing, right? There comes a point where you just go, I don't have to do this. I can just not. And it doesn't mean that I'm supporting the whatever, right? But that's the thing, is Harry's like, my life could be just so much easier. Like, I'm good at this shit. I already have power. I could take a shit ton of power and just do whatever the hell I want. And, right, the wardens can't touch me if I'm, like, leagues above them, right? Or just, I just could be fucked with having to run around and get the shit beat out of me to help other people who don't even know about it or don't fully appreciate it, and I could just go, hide out in my little thing and ignore the world and do whatever I want to, right? And I think that's the thing that he always battles with there.
Still, when he does eventually come to beaten and battered as hell, you get this little vindication moment where he gives Butters his accolades, and it's a really nice scene.
Yeah,
I did save your life. You're welcome.
And you got a kick-ass, broken nose and black eyes to show for it. It is very sweet how Butters is kind of all, and I like that Harry's like, I kept quiet and let him process it, right? Like, he's kind of talking to him, being like, oh, he's like, I kept running away. It's like, oh, but when you survive it, or you said I did something really, really stupid. And he's like, yes, but you came out ahead, so you get to reclassify it as courageous, And you didn't run away, you took cover, and
I did do good. Oh my God, that was so dumb.
Right, and just let him, I love how he lets him process, go, oh my God, why did I do that? But
it's almost like Harry would be a great mentor.
Almost, right? If he didn't, hate the Kim Delaney's of the world. And
and then you have this moment here where they talk about, so that death curse, hey? Die alone, what the fuck is that about? Nervous laughter.
Because Butter's like, I guess it didn't work, right? Because obviously you're not. And then Harry's like, no, he didn't have enough power to, kill me with it. But no, he hit me with something.
Yeah, there's something.
And a death curse is a significant thing.
And this is interesting because, we know that Harry's mother put off a death curse without killing either. So it's like, is this a common thing between you people? You just curse tiny little parts of their life rather than the whole thing? It's like, I can't really kill you, but I can do something way worse.
It can make your life really inconvenient.
Right. Again, I'm going to say it comes down to so many things. How much power you have, how much power the other person had, the intent that you're right. So in this case, liver spots, I'm sure, would have killed him if he had. He just did not have enough mojo at this point to stack up against Harry's mojo. So he's like, I can't do a full out, but I can incapacitate without killing.
You got to think about what his thought process is like before then. Is he thinking, well, all right, I'm going to go up against this guy. Do I want to change up my death curse?
We had this conversation before, or was it just going around thinking about it constantly? So they're always ready to throw it in case someone stabs him.
Or he just changes it at the last second because he's like, oh, that's not going to fucking work. How about this?
Yes and no, because I think we're actually going to address that in the next chapter or two. We can.
I think that Margaret Le Fay was just smarter and more powerful than your average wizard, and she was able to specifically take out Lord Wraith's hunger. She knew what she wanted to take out, she knew what she was capable of taking out, and she was like, I know I can get this to work. In the case of Cassius, I don't know that he was quite as capable of specifically aiming for anything. He just was
Harry,
pissed off.
just lashing out at Harry,
just,
yeah.
you know, and this is, you know, I hope this does something, you bitch.
Well, yeah, exactly. And if it had, like you say, for all we know, his intent was to try and kill him right in that moment. It just turns out he didn't. But like you say, I think the same thing, you know, that Maggie may or may not have, because again, at that time, Wraith had this huge wellspring of power, this huge reservoir of power saved up, right? It could have been a thing of, like, as powerful as she was, she's like, I know I can't. Or it could simply have been, this will be that much more. I can just kill you. And yeah, okay, but this is going to make you live like this and slowly deplete.
Such a frustrating thing for her, though, because for all she knew, it was going to take, you know, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 years for
him to use it up.
For him to use it up, right? Like, she got lucky that her kids went and fucked around with him, but she didn't have time to write a note and be like, go fuck with this guy, right? She's just
and that's the thing.
It might not happen in their lifetime.
You know, but I mean, again, I think that probably was a little bit luck, definitely, but also a little bit, I don't know, because up until then, right, he'd never had to. So she's like, he's going to keep throwing power around and he's going to use a bunch of it before he realizes that it's, oh shit, I can't, whoa, right? Because, right, I mean, same thing, right? You don't just eat to keep, you eat. And then
I was going to say, I was like, I feel like vampires eating is different and they do a little bit. Eat.
A little bit, but we've also seen that they can go a while without and whatever. And
yes, no, I don't think there was any chance of him not learning about it immediately, though. I think, you know, exactly, like, by the end of the week, you're going to have a meal. Like, you're not going to use up your entire power source in one night and be like, fuck.
No, not necessarily, but I mean, again, the way that he goes around, I mean, I look at it like, you know, people like spending money if they've always had it, right? That I'm like, yeah, you can go through a whole lot real fast before, right? You're like, I could stay at the, like, nice room, or I could stay at the stupid, crazy, expensive
still, I don't
room.
think that was the gamble she made.
Well, anyways, you're right, probably not, but...
Harry asks for a favor from Butters, and he immediately agrees without even knowing what it is. Like, this is how much, like,
he's in it.
Butters is invested now.
Right now, he's like, and I sort of get that, right? Once you've had, especially if you've been struggling with something, as soon as you get a win, you're like, all right, let's do it. I'm going to keep going, going. Give me the next one, right? And I like to how, so he figures, Harry's like, okay, how long was I out? Butters was like, 15 minutes. And in that time, Butters has seen to him as best he can, kind of assessed him and patched him up a little bit. It's a great little thing, too, where he's like, yeah, I don't know. And Harry's like, you can, like, do an autopsy on, like, a 3-day-old corpse while, like, eating lunch. And he's like, yeah, but you're still alive.
People are yucky.
That's what I do, dead bodies. I couldn't hack dealing on people. Like, knowing that you're still, like, experiencing and feeling this and... Right? So, yeah, so it's not much, but we found that he's done tiny bit of first aid. And that Lash has now taught him something to block away the rest of it. And I still find that interesting because I'm like, obviously, that is a lot of it, right? I mean, we talk about placebos and mind over matter and blah, blah, blah. If you can write things to, like, distract you from... But at the same time, I'm like, how far does that go, though? Because, like, if you just, like if your foot falls asleep, like, really badly, right? You know it's still there. You can see, you can feel it. You can put your foot down. But without that sort of, like, internal sensation, it still doesn't, like, you can't make the muscles work to hold you up kind of a thing. So, right? So I'm like, even though you're right, part of me wonders, I'm like, it's one thing just to block it out. But really, would that much damage leave him? I mean, it's all side point. Obviously, he needs to get out there. And I mean, I'm not saying that he shouldn't.
The fact that Lasciel has already showed him a new technique, so he's immediately benefiting from...
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He basically says it's just like a mind over matter. So I'm like, great, you can't feel it. I totally understand that she showed him that. But it's like a broken arm. If you don't feel it, it's still broken. You still can't go around using it. You know what I mean? And I just feel a little bit like the extent of the damage and stuff like that, even though he can block it out, I almost feel like his body would just be like, dude, I can't respond to this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your legs are busted. Stop walking around. You can't walk around, even if you tell yourself you can. And I mean, that's more of a minor. Like, obviously,
I was like, that's what Lash is for.
Yeah, but that's what I mean is, like, she's just blocking it out. She didn't actually fix anything. He didn't actually heal anything. He's just like, I can't feel it, so it's not.
I'm honest to God, I think those kick-ass superheroes powers are, like, one of the greatest.
Oh, yeah, no nerve endings.
Yeah, like, I think, honestly, like, of all the superhero powers, that is one of the most boss.
You're talking about the movie Kick-Ass and not just, like, a kick-ass superpower?
No, the movie Kick-Ass.
Yeah, it just took me a second for a second. You're like, that's one of the greatest kick-ass superpowers. I'm like, what is? But yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so, fuck everything we just said. It's time to get to work.
Yeah, and like you say, Butters is like, all right, let's go. What are we doing? And there's like, I really can't. I can ask you because I do need help, but you don't have to. Like, think about what you're doing here.
But I do need your help. You have to say yes.
I do, but I'll figure it out. But yeah, it's like I'm giving you that option, but I'm kind of not.
Mouse, can you bark on a beat? And also climb a dinosaur?
So Butters does realize that Harry will need him to beat the drummer to enact his own necromancer spell. And Harry also explains that he's going to use a loophole within the laws of magic and not call up anything human.
Because Butters is like, you've been telling me this whole time why this is such a bad thing, and now, like, aren't your people gonna, like, fucking kick your ass for doing this?
Yeah.
Harry, always with the loopholes. Always. Little technicality I'm going to exploit yet again. And yeah, how awesome was this moment?
I mean, most iconic.
Right? Like, first time around, and you're reading, and you're all like, oh, fuck it!
Like, is he? Is he really? Is this really what's going to happen?
How many times are you going to visit a dinosaur in a museum before you animate a dinosaur in a museum, really?
Right.
I do wonder, though, what they did with Mouse. Like, what'd you do? Like, go home, boy, wait for me there. I don't know, run around the city and kill zombies, bro. I don't know.
It's a really long lead.
Yeah, they don't explain.
Back to the car.
They don't explain what they do. Harry just was like, all right, bro, figure it out. Which is funny, because at this point in the series, Harry's still like, it's just a dog.
Yeah, right.
Big undead lizard. The dog's like, nope.
Yeah.
You know how you got
There's
blood?
a lot of things that I could do, but it's not that.
You know how you have blood dripping from your muzzle? Go out into the world.
You know how you're a very, very large dog with blood dripping from your muzzle? Just find your own way home.
Yeah, it's Halloween. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's Halloween. There's already weird,
You'll fit
creepy
right
shit
in.
going on.
When they find John Does with snap necks, go away.
Don't
Bye.
be here, boy. Do not let the dog catcher get his hands on you. Yeah.
It's just funny to me that it's not mentioned at all. And, like, we see Mouse in, like, later on in the book. Actually, do we see Mouse later on in this book? I don't recall. But still, it's just, like, obviously Mouse is in future books, if not in the rest of this book. But it's just, like...
He just left him in the museum and Mouse lives there now. We never see him again.
Museum dog. It's just funny to me that there's no explanation of, like, I put Mouse back in the beetle and hope, no other dinosaurs came wandering by. Like,
yeah, right. Well, he sent Butters to go get his focus suit. He's like, oh, just here, Mouse. You sit in the car. I mean...
Drive yourself home, bud.
I was gonna say it's not that hot, not that cold. Mouse is probably fine being in the car. You know what I mean? He's not gonna boil to death.
Lots of room to stretch out in there.
Well, when he's all by himself.
It doesn't. One of the windows is gone anyway, so it's
Right.
That's honestly probably Mouse, guard the car. I cannot afford to repair this anymore.
Yeah. Large dog with bloody muzzle, go sit in the car. Yeah. So nobody comes and strips it while we're
last person into this car.
Right.
To be fair, you did murder the last guy that beat up your car.
True story.
By that dog, yeah, right? It's, yeah. And I love, too, how when he's starting to figure it out and Butters is like, oh, okay, I'll go grab some tom-toms. And Harry's like, nah, not big enough.
We need a drum.
Go get the bass drum out. And boy, isn't it convenient that Butters has been training for Pokefest all this time. And that Thomas couldn't stand to listen to it anymore. And it's right there in the trunk.
I like that. Lightning also goes at the perfect time, too.
To light her up, and I looked up and up and up. It's the friendly giant.
The most complete Tyrannosaurus skeleton mankind has ever discovered.
This concludes our episode 13.28, Cassius the Coinless. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own